Welcome to the fifth minute, the moment between who you are and who you are becoming. I'm your keeper, your future self. Today, you need to remember something your fear keeps trying to make you forget. There is a strange thing about being human. We can survive the impossible and somehow still convince ourselves that we won't survive tomorrow. We carry proof of our strength everywhere we go, yet when a new challenge appears, our minds behave as though we've never overcome anything before. Fear has a way of doing that. It doesn't erase your memories. It simply hides the ones that would help you. It takes all of your victories, all of your resilience, all of the storms you've already survived, and quietly pushes them into the background, leaving only one thought: what if this is the one I can't handle? And in that moment, fear becomes a terrible historian. It remembers every wound, but forgets every scar. It remembers every sleepless night, but forgets every sunrise that followed. It remembers the moments you cried, but not the moments you stood back up. That is not truth. That is selective memory. Let me ask you something. How many things have you already lived through that once felt impossible? Think about it. There was a day when you didn't believe your heart would heal, and somehow it did. There was a season when you thought the weight was too heavy to carry. And yet, here you are. There was a version of you who looked at a mountain in front of them and whispered, "I don't think I can do this." But they did, not because they suddenly became fearless, not because life became easier, but because life kept moving, and so did they. That is the strange thing about strength. It rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with fireworks, or music, or some overwhelming feeling of confidence, most of the time. Strength looks incredibly ordinary. It looks like getting out of bed when you don't want to, making one more phone call, taking one more breath, trying one more time, keeping one more promise. Strength isn't loud, it's quiet, patient, persistent. It doesn't ask for applause, it simply asks you to keep going. So let me ask you a simple question. Why do we always assume we can't survive the next hard thing when we've already survived so many before? Why does one difficult conversation, one unexpected diagnosis, one setback, one disappointment convince us that this time will be different? Fear has a short memory. It treats today's challenge like it's the first mountain we've ever climbed, but it isn't. Look behind you. There are mountains everywhere. Some have names you still remember. Others have faded into the distance. Because once we reach the summit, we have a funny habit. We stop looking back. We don't stand at the top, admiring how far we've come. We immediately look toward the next climb and forget that we are already someone who climbs mountains. The person standing before today's challenge is not the same person who faced yesterday's. You have more experience, more wisdom, more scars, more resilience than you did before. Every difficult season left something behind, not just pain, but strength, not just loss, but perspective, not just fear, but proof that when life asked more of you, somehow you found more within yourself, and maybe that is what fear wants you to forget. Because if you truly remembered everything you've already survived, you might stop asking, "Can I do hard things?" and start realizing, "I already have. There is something I want you to do, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Right now, I want you to stop searching for evidence that you are broken and start searching for evidence that you are resilient, because I promise you, it's there. You've simply forgotten where to look." Keeper reminds us, you survived heartbreak, you survived failure, you survived grief, you survived disappointment, you survived rejection, you survived mistakes, you survived loneliness, you survived uncertainty, you survived days you honestly believed would break you. And yet, here you are, reading these words, breathing, trying again, still becoming. Isn't that remarkable? Think about how many versions of yourself you thought would never make it. The version of you who cried themselves to sleep, the version of you who believed tomorrow would never come, the version of you who wondered if life would ever feel different. You remember them because they mattered, but you rarely stop to thank the version of yourself who carried all of them here. Our minds have an interesting habit. They archive pain with incredible detail. They remember exactly what someone said, exactly how betrayal felt, exactly where we were standing, exactly how our hearts broke. But resilience is strangely quiet. We don't celebrate the 1,000 ordinary moments where we simply kept going. We don't remember every morning we got out of bed, even though we didn't want to. We don't remember every time we chose kindness instead of bitterness. Every promise we kept, every breath we took, every step that carried us forward, those victories become ordinary, even though they were anything but. That is why fear feels so convincing, because it presents you with a library filled almost entirely with pain and quietly locks away the shelves that contain your courage. But the books are still there, the evidence still exists, the story is simply incomplete. There was a time when I begged life for answers. I wanted someone, anyone, to explain why this, why now, why me. I wanted someone to tell me everything would be okay. I wanted certainty, I wanted guarantees, I wanted to know that I could survive what came next. The answers never came. Morning did, and then another morning, and another, not because every morning was easy. Some mornings were incredibly heavy. Some mornings, simply opening my eyes, felt like enough work for one day, but the sun kept rising, and somehow, so did I. At first, I didn't recognize what was happening. I thought I was waiting for strength to arrive. I thought one day I would wake up. Feeling brave, feeling ready, feeling certain. That day never came. Something better did. I kept waking up. I kept moving. I kept taking the next step. Even when I doubted it mattered. Even when I couldn't see the destination. Even when all I could manage was the next 5 minutes. And slowly, without realizing it, I became someone who could carry what yesterday thought was impossible. Not because the burden became lighter, but because I had become stronger. Not all at once, not dramatically. Quietly, one morning, one promise, one difficult step at a time. Perhaps the greatest evidence of your strength isn't found in the moments when you felt powerful. Perhaps it's found in all the moments you didn't feel strong at all, and still, you kept going. There is a misunderstanding. Almost all of us carry. We believe strength arrives before the challenge. We imagine courage as something you receive before you need it, as if one morning you simply wake up feeling completely ready, completely fearless, completely certain. But life rarely works that way. Think about every difficult thing you've ever faced. Did you feel ready before it happened, or did you discover what you were capable of because it happened? Most of us don't recognize our strength until we're already using it. A mountain doesn't ask if you're prepared, it simply stands in front of you. Life doesn't wait until you feel confident. It simply arrives, and then, without realizing it, you begin climbing, one step, then another, until one day, you look behind you and realize you've reached heights you once thought were impossible. Strength introduces itself when the challenge leaves you. No other choice, not because life is cruel, but because some parts of who we are can only be discovered by being lived. You cannot practice courage without something frightening. You cannot practice patience without waiting. You cannot practice forgiveness without being hurt. You cannot discover resilience without something trying to knock you down. That doesn't mean we should wish for suffering. The Keeper has never celebrated pain. Pain is painful, loss is loss, grief is grief, but hidden inside those moments is something remarkable, the opportunity to meet a version of yourself you have never met before. That's why we underestimate ourselves. We spend today judging ourselves by what we feel instead of what we've already survived. We're searching for tomorrow's strength, using today's perspective, and today's perspective is often clouded by fear. Fear says, "I don't think I can." Experience quietly replies, "You've said that before." The truth is, you will because you have to, and you can because you'll need to. Life has a strange way of asking more from us, exactly when we believe we have nothing left to give, and somehow, somewhere, another ounce of courage appears, another breath, another step, another sunrise, not because we planned it, but because the moment required it. Perhaps strength isn't something you possess. Perhaps it's something you discover, again and again and again, every time life asks the question, can you keep going? Just when you believe you've handled everything you possibly can, life surprises you, and so does your strength. You find yourself having a conversation you thought you couldn't have, walking into a room you thought you couldn't enter, loving again after believing your heart could never open, standing back up after promising yourself you never would, not because you became fearless, but because the moment arrived, and so did you. So perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" ask, "What evidence do I already have?" Because evidence changes everything. Look at your life not through the eyes of fear, but through the eyes of a detective. Collect the proof. Every difficult season you've survived is evidence. Every promise you've kept is evidence. Every morning you got back up when staying in bed would have been easier is evidence. Every apology you had the courage to make, every boundary you finally learned to set, every habit you fought to build, every time you chose hope over despair, compassion over bitterness, action over avoidance, that is evidence. Fear loves opinions. The Keeper prefers proof. Fear says, "You always quit." The evidence says, "No, I didn't." Fear says, "You're too weak." The evidence says, "I've carried impossible things before." Fear says, "This will break you." The evidence asks, "Then how am I still here?" Evidence isn't confidence. Confidence comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll doubt everything. But evidence remains. It doesn't depend on your mood. It doesn't disappear because you're anxious. It simply waits patiently for you to remember it. Evidence is proof. So when fear whispers, "I can't," don't waste your energy arguing. You don't have to convince fear. You only have to remind yourself, "I've done hard things before. I'll do this one too." Not because you know exactly how it will unfold, but because history has already introduced you to the person you become. When life asks more of you, then take the next small action. Drink the water. Make the phone call, take the walk, open the book, write the first sentence, stand back up, keep the promise, not because it feels easy, not because fear disappeared, not because you're suddenly certain, but because that next small action is another piece of evidence, another vote for the person you are becoming, because every promise kept whispers something beautiful. To the person you're becoming, you've done hard things before, and you're doing one more. Before we leave each other today, I want you to remember something, not because I want you to feel inspired, but because I want you to remember the truth. Every difficult moment is another opportunity to remember who you've already become, not who you hope to become someday, not who you're waiting to become, who you've already become. Because every storm has left something behind, not just scars, but wisdom, not just pain, but perspective, not just memories, but evidence, evidence that you are far more capable than fear would ever have you believe. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It never has been. If courage required fear to disappear, none of us would ever be courageous. Courage is hearing fear and choosing to move anyway. Courage is taking one more step when your knees are shaking. Courage is keeping a promise when no one else is watching. Courage is trusting the evidence, even when your emotions tell you a different story. So when the 5th minute arrives, and it always does when fear quietly asks, "Can you really do this?" Pause, take a breath, and remember, you have heard that voice before. You have stood at the bottom of mountains before. You have faced impossible mornings before. You have walked through storms you once believed would never end, and somehow, here you are. The answers may not come. Life doesn't always explain itself. It rarely tells us why things happen or how everything will work out. Sometimes, the answers stay silent. Tomorrow might. Morning usually does. The sun has a remarkable habit of rising, even after our darkest nights, and perhaps that is all the proof we need. Keep showing up, keep greeting the morning, keep taking the next step, until one day you look back and realize you became the answer you were waiting for. And sometimes, just when you believe you've handled all you possibly can, life surprises you, not with an easier road, but with a stronger version of you. A version you didn't know existed, until life asked you to find them. That has always been the secret. Your strength was never missing. It was waiting for the moment that called it forward. So the next time life places another mountain before you, don't ask, "Will I be strong enough?" Ask instead, "What evidence do I already carry?" Because your past has been preparing you for this moment. Every promise, every setback, every sunrise, every step forward has been quietly reminding you of something fear keeps trying to erase. You can do hard things, not because they are easy, not because you never feel afraid, but because, again and again, you already have. Because we don't negotiate here, we keep promises, and I'll meet you on the 5th minute.